And greetings, everybody. Welcome to the Monroe County Council work session for the month of August. I'm Eric Spoonmore. I'll be chairing our meeting tonight. It is 5:32 p.m. on Tuesday, August 25th. It's 92 degrees and sweltering outside. I hope everybody's air conditioning unit's working better than mine is today, and you're all comfortable tonight. We're having a hard time keeping up with this heat over here, but at any rate, we are called to order. So at this time, as we always do with our Zoom meetings, I'm going to do a roll call of council members present at the meeting this evening. Council members, please unmute your microphones as I call the roll and indicate by voice that you are present. Council Member Deckard.
Here.
Council Member Hawk.
Yes.
Council Member Iverson.
Here.
Council Member McKim.
Here.
Council Member Munson. Looks like Council Member Munson will be arriving just a little bit late. Council Member Wiltz.
I'm here.
All right, so we have a quorum present. We will now proceed with the next items on our agenda. And that will be our department updates. Do we have any departments or elected officials present with us tonight who would like to provide an update to the council?
I see a hand up from Julie Thomas.
Okay, Commissioner Thomas, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, thank you. I hope you can hear me. I am just here to make two quick announcements. First, that the Board of Commissioners is pleased to provide additional funding for our food banks, two of them in particular, the Hoosier Hills Food Bank and Pantry 279. We are issuing those checks tomorrow. Hoosier Hills Food Bank will receive $25,000 and the Pantry 279 will receive $5,000. Both have seen obviously an exponential increase in client numbers. That money will be coming from the rainy day funding that is in the Commissioner's Fund currently, and we hope to recover this from FEMA and or CARES funding. In other news, tomorrow is Women's Equality Day in Monroe County. We'll be making that proclamation tomorrow, commemorating the 100th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment of the Constitution, which grants women the right to vote. This week, beginning tomorrow, the courthouse will be lit in purple and gold for a week. These colors were adopted by the women's suffrage movement, and also it fits with the historic slogan, "Forward through the darkness, forward into the light."
Great. Are there any questions for Commissioner Thomas? I don't see any, but thank you so much for the update. We appreciate it and look forward to hearing more.
Thank you.
Okay, and it looks like, so just for the record, Councilmember Munson is here. Our Council Administrator Kim Schell is with us as well. And do we still, and Megan Miller is in the meeting as well too. Okay, great. Are there any further department updates for council? Looks like our Health Administrator, Ms. Caudle, would like to speak. Welcome.
Thank you. I will be very brief. Just wanted to kind of bring you an update on what some of the things that we're working on. Still, obviously, COVID-19 is still our primary focus, even though we continue to do all of the routine things that we do. We're still handling septic issues and birth and death records and retail food establishments and swimming pools and education and family planning, all of those kinds of things. We are working with the schools in a variety of ways and the universities. Today, a safety campaign was launched with the community that was led by the Chamber of Commerce, and it involved the city and the county and Ivy Tech, the Rental Association, and I may have that term wrong, but a variety of people. I'm sure that I left someone off of there to really kind of help build the messaging again around face coverings and prevention for all of us so that we can keep our community open and working and our students in school and classes. We have been working with MCCSC on their metrics committee, and recently have obviously the health orders that we have in place, and the city put out an executive order last week, which has changed things for us a little bit. We are handling complaints as quickly as we can, but we do want to remind people that the complaints are really for businesses not following the guidance that they're given and the regulations around them. So we continue to do a variety of things beyond our wildest dreams or capacity.
Very good, thank you. Are there any questions from council members for Ms. Caudle? Okay, well, thank you for joining us tonight. Appreciate the update. Do we have any further departmental updates at this time? It doesn't appear that we do. So we'll now move on to our council liaison updates, which I believe we have at least one, and maybe more. So Mr. Iverson, I saw your hand first, and then Mr. Deckard.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Spoonmore. I wanted to highlight the work that Penny just talked about. The Monroe County Health Department has been doing just amazing work. 1 hour ago, the Indiana Department of Health released their numbers, which they do daily. And right now, there have been 26,136 individuals tested for the novel coronavirus here in just Monroe County. That's a great number. And of course, Indiana University and our other partners in the community are continuing to do increased testing. And that's just really wonderful to see that number be that high. Right now in our county, we have a total positive rate or total positive number of just 968. I think that also speaks to the hard work that our health department is doing here in the county. That number could be a lot higher, and certainly we know how serious this is, as we've seen 36 deaths in the county. But we also are really pushing hard, as Penny was saying, to make sure that people are following the 3 W's: wash your hands, wear your mask, and wait 6 feet apart from other people. And that's really keeping our rate down. Our 7-day rate is 2.2. That's the positivity rate. So there's some really good numbers coming out of the health department, and it really shows that the people are working very hard in this community to keep others safe. And so for those of you watching on Cats in the Community, I thank you for doing your part to keep your family, your neighbors, and those in the community safe by doing those 3 W's. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Iverson. Mr. Deckard.
Thank you very much. As the council knows, I do serve as liaison for the council to the Monroe County Women's Commission, and I want to plug a campaign and an event that the Women's Commission is doing and make the public a little bit more aware of it from this platform. The commission is starting a campaign of 26 ways in 26 days, a campaign to unite, inspire, and create social change, centering on some of the discussions we've had in the community about racial justice and equality and equity. Specifically on Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, August 26th at 6 p.m., the Women's Commission is partnering with the League of Women Voters for a Facebook live stream event that will talk about voter education, certainly in these times where individuals have questions about voting, they're inspired or interested in voting and might not understand all the things related to voting. And certainly who would, right? I spent 4.5 years in state election administration, and there's much of it that confuses me on an everyday basis. So anyway, this is an event the Women's Commission is doing with the League. It's a real testament to both institutions that they're doing such active work in our community, and we're certainly grateful to them. They're doing this, by the way, and I didn't mean to omit this. They're doing this in honor of Breonna Taylor, who was killed in Louisville, who we all have been quite aware of and been made more aware of by the day. And it's a fitting tribute to educate on civic engagement and our processes and how to stay engaged here in Indiana. Certainly, with everything going on, the voting continues, and this is a huge thing that they're offering here. So I'm proud to be a member of the Women's Commission. I appreciate their service and wanted to plug that here. And thanks to the league for doing that as well. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Deckard. I saw Ms. Hawk's hand and then Ms. Munson.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I just wanted to share some good news. I think most of you folks did receive this information, but for the public at home, you know, we've been so concerned about our highway money. And that's what we're supposed to be doing here as the county councils, be looking at the fiscal needs of the county. And so we received information from Lisa Ridge. It was great information on Friday. And she said that they had just received their revenue distributions, and both accounts are showing increases from last year. The motor vehicle highway is up 6.4%, and local road and street is about 4%. So they're finally headed in the right direction. That's as a reminder that we know we've been concerned about the loss of revenue, because that loss of revenue directly comes back to whether or not we're going to be able to do our patching. For the people at home, they want to know what's going to happen to their roads and when they're going to get those potholes filled and so forth. And so this is good news that we will be able to perhaps be able to get more done than what we were concerned about a month or two ago. We still don't know, of course, these numbers could fluctuate, but that's a good piece of news. And we could all use some good news.
Take all the good news we can get. Thank you, Councilmember Hawk. Ms. Munson?
Yes, I'm glad. I hope I'm last because I have several announcements. First, following on Commissioner Thomas's announcement about the celebration of the 19th Amendment and women's roles in our government, this Saturday, the Monroe County History Center is sponsoring a walk from the Convention Center to the History Center, starting at 10:30 a.m. This is not just for women, this is for men, and it's in celebration of the many walks, parades, and demonstrations that women carried out over the years to help bring about the 19th Amendment. There is a plan to call the History Center so that you can be properly socially distanced. People will be walking in distanced groups. Secondly, I have a graphic that I sent to the council office, and I hope it's ready to share with you at this meeting. Did you get it, Michelle?
I believe
It's
it
not
was sent to
Michelle. I'm working on
Yes.
it.
Yes.
Okay.
Give me
So-
just a second to get that up.
I'll wait for Mr. Hans Kelsen to project this. This is a draft graphic. And I say that at the beginning because I want your input in making any corrections to it. I prepared this for the council's Monday meeting at 5:30 p.m. That's August 31st, regarding public safety lit allocation. And this will be sent to you by email from the council office, so you can see this.
There you go.
Thank you. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Great. So I thought of it as a pie chart, but it's really a pizza, and with various toppings. And I wanted to be able to show the overlapping responsibilities for public safety that our different government units have within Monroe County. And first of all, starting with county government in green, with the services in green, you can see that we have, we take care of the sheriff or police, and the other services that we can provide public safety lit funding for that are involved with this aspect of service are courts, community corrections, prosecutor, jail, health department, and emergency management. They all have some aspect of service for public safety. And I I highlighted these with blue because these services are provided to the entirety of Monroe County, including the city of Bloomington and the town of Ellettsville. And I should say the town of Steinsville as well. But Steinsville received such a small percentage of public safety lit revenue that I did not include it in this graph. It would have been just the size of a period. So pardon us, Steinsville residents. We haven't forgotten you, but we do recognize how small you are. You can see the sheriff does not have a blue highlight because he only serves for police in the rural areas of Monroe County, outside the limits of Bloomington and Ellettsville. City of Bloomington in blue provides public safety funding for police and fire. The same goes for Ellettsville town government. And I think you can see that we have a huge responsibility in county government, but according to the statute, we receive only a measured percentage that is smaller than the city of Bloomington and Ellettsville put together, even though we're providing services to all of them. The percentage recommendations shown on this graphic are those that the Public Safety Lit Committee, not the subcommittee that was the county council, but the Public Safety Lit Committee has recommended. And you can see that rural fire departments are receiving 0% of public safety lit funding, according to their recommendation. I think this is very unfortunate for the many residents who live outside the limits of Bloomington and Ellettsville and downtown Steinsville, because they are paying their fair share of income tax for public safety, just like people in Bloomington and Ellettsville. And I think they aren't getting their fair share according to the Public Safety Lit Committee's recommendation. So I hope this Venn diagram or pizza helps explain this. And if you have any comments on this before Monday's meeting, would you please shoot me an email or call me so I can make corrections or other changes. So thank you for that. And then finally, I want to announce that the Solid Waste Management Board of Directors at their last meeting approved a set of measures to determine need and plan consistency, because the district has received a request for determination of need and plan consistency based on county ordinance. And that is required before the commissioners consider approval of what Rumpke Waste and Recycling has proposed, which is a Monroe County Resource Recovery Facility. And that meeting, when the Solid Waste District Board will vote on the determination of need, is scheduled for September 10th. And I wanted to announce that tonight because we will be in budget meetings in early September, and this is the the most proximate time to make that announcement. So I hope you all will stay tuned for this development. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Councilor Munson, for the information there. Are there any further reports, liaison reports from council members? Okay, we'll now move on to the next item on our agenda. We'll check in with Kelly Whitmer, Director of our Parks and Recreation Department. Welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
I don't think you can see me, but you can hear me.
we can hear you loud and clear. You're all
Excellent. Excellent. We have a major water line breaks multiple to one of our major restrooms at Karst Farm Park.
Ms. Whitmer.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, we'll read a motion first,
Oh, sorry.
and then we'll get started on the request. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Sorry about that.
Council, I move to approve the Parks and Recreation Department's request for a category transfer in Fund 1000-0803 General Fund Parks in the amount of $27,623 from the personnel category to the services category.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All right. Welcome, Ms. Whitmer. Sorry for the confusion there. That was my fault.
That was excellent. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
We have a major water line breaks to one of our restroom facilities at Karst Farm Park. We've been trying numerous options to get the price down. We've been working with CBU engineers, and the only less expensive option that we have found is to replace the entire water line for $38,320. As Ms. Wiltz stated, we would like to transfer $27,623 to pay for that. Then I'll be coming back in September for an additional appropriation for the remainder. It might be less, it might be more around the 8,000 mark, but that's where we're at. We don't have an option if we want to get this restroom back up and going. Do you have any questions?
Yes, thanks for the information. Looks like Mr. McKim has a question for you.
Hi, Ms. Whitmer. I just wanted to know if you had any ideas as to the cause. I mean, was it improperly installed? When was this water line installed?
Excellent question. We believe it's low quality SDR21 pipe with multiple connections. This combination makes the pipe more susceptible to water leaks. We also believe the water leaks are going down in karst topography. That's why we can't locate them. They're not pulling up into the top. We are going to replace it with good quality poly pipe with less connections, GPS locate on couplings, and trace wires. This will alleviate the problem probably that we're having now. Did that answer your question, Jeff?
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Iverson and then Mr. Deckard.
Thank you. Ms. Whitmer, thank you for being here tonight and bringing this item to our attention. In the item that you wrote up, you said that you're suspecting the water's leaking and it's traveling downward into karst topography and it's not pooling at the surface. Can you talk at all about any of the environmental damage that might be happening or the effect on the environment there at the park?
Well, where this is located, we don't see any we don't see any karst indentions coming from this water leak. It is near the athletic fields and we don't see any, so I can't tell you without digging down, but we do know we have karst topography and we have caves in the area. So we just suspect the water is going downward. And the reason why we know we have a water leak is because of our water bill. Working with CBU, we had to turn it off immediately because we noticed we had a major leak. So I can't tell you if there's environmental damage or not. There's nothing visible on the surface.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Deckard and then Mr. McKim, I believe, had another question.
Thank you very much. And Kelly, just a quick question. By the way, I was out there the other day and I think I saw this. This is the bathroom as you go in on the left that's got the large gate over it, right? To the left of the entrance?
No. No, that one is open. We call that the Commons restroom where there's a American flag that is outside that. This one is by between field 5 and 4. It's kind of up on a hill to your right as you're driving in. It's in the middle of the athletic complex. So it's quite important to get this one up and running.
Gotcha. Thank you very much.
Mr. McKim?
Yeah, and just to be clear, since we were talking about environmental issues, this is clean treated water, right? This is not a waistline leak. This is a
Correct.
water line leak.
This is fresh water coming into the restroom, correct. It is not, our sewage goes to a tank and then it gets pumped out, and that is not the problem we're having.
Thanks.
That is secure.
Councilmember Wilkes?
Apologies, I was muted. Thanks for all your work on this, Ms. Whitmer. It's a pretty, in my opinion, important thing to get fixed quickly. I had a couple of questions. Some I think I might know the answer to, but do you have a time frame for how long it might take to get the repair accomplished once you are contracting?
Well, the commissioners hopefully will approve it tomorrow. Will be put on the schedule. And as soon as the contract is signed, I can talk with Riverway Plumbing to see what their schedule is. They do know this is a priority for us, so hopefully they can get us in soon. This is a direct bore project, so it'll take a few days. I'm hoping we'll get moved to the top of their list.
But you're hoping then like this fall before freeze,
Oh, yes.
Really quickly.
Yes. I'm anticipating in the next 30 days, I hope.
Excellent. And with the closing of the restroom, how is this affecting use of karst, of the park facilities in general?
Well, we actually have been having athletic events at Karst Farm Park, and we have very busy days on Saturdays, so it does affect it. We have the splash pad restroom, part of that's open, and the commons restroom is open to the athletic users. But it is right in the middle of the athletic complex, so it is important to get this one up and going for the players so they can go to the restroom and wash their hands.
Did the soccer games go on this weekend as anticipated, or were they affected?
Yes, they did. And we've been working with the health department. We're waiting for their okay to play again on Saturday.
How did this past Saturday go with respect to some of the concerns? I know I'm veering off topic now, but the fact that, it's sort of related. There were a lot of people out there.
Yes. To a person coming into the park, you would think, oh my, this is a lot of people. But the parents were trying to do their best at staying 6 feet apart. They had what's called family pods. So if you're with your family or the people you drove with, you stay in a group, stay 6 feet away. And when you can't do that, you have your mask on. We are also going to put 30 minutes more additional between games to hopefully people won't run into each other when they're transferring to one game to another. Players are not going to the field like they used to. They go later. So there's a lot of provisions that are put in place so they don't run into each other. But when you look out, you see a lot of people in the parking lot. Yes, you do. And people do stand in line at restrooms.
Thanks for the update. I appreciate the information.
Now, Ms. Whitmer, do you see any need for temporary restroom facilities to be placed?
Well, we've worked with the health department, and Porta Johns, I don't think are the favorite item. Right. So there's not any other choices.
Okay. I've seen some of the mobile units, like what they use at Indiana University for the football games that are kind of motorized. I didn't know if that they've got them out at some different golf courses and things as well. But yeah, keep us posted if there's need. Happy to have discussion about that as well too. But looking forward to getting this fixed. Are there any further questions or comments from council members? Okay, we will, is there any public comment on this item? I don't see any public comment, so we'll have a roll call vote, please.
On the motion to approve the category transfer from the personnel category to the services category in Fund 1000-0803, Councilor Spoonmore,
Yes?
Councilor Hawk,
Yes.
Councilor Wiltz,
Yes.
Councilor McKim,
Yes.
Councilor Munson,
Yes.
Councilor Deckard,
Yes.
Councilor Iverson.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Great.
If
Thank
I
you
could
very much.
Quickly come in just to check something. The person in the attendees called Rita, are you Rita Barrow? I
That
think you
was my,
should be allowed to talk. here.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, wonderful. I just wanted to check since your last name wasn't there.
I'm sorry.
great, thank you.
I'm trying to mute this, so there I see it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barrow. All right. Next up is our prosecutor's office.
Am I on? This is Erica Oliphant.
Yes.
Hi, Ms. Oliphant.
So my office is requesting the addition of a victim assistant position. We're going to work on that name to start January 1st of 2021. As you can imagine, victimization can be traumatic, and empowerment is perhaps the most effective means to alleviate trauma. So crime victims are empowered when they understand how the system works, how their case is being handled, what their rights are, and how and when they can participate in the process. The Victim Assistance Program here in the Monroe County Prosecutor's Office serves as the main point of contact with my office and as the primary source of information for crime victims. So we included a job description with this request, but statutory duties of the victim assistant are defined by Indiana Code 35-40-6-4. But essentially, they inform crime victims of constitutional and statutory rights, court hearing dates, any continuances of those dates, and the disposition of cases. They meet with victims and family members to tour the courtrooms so they know what to expect on trial day, explain the justice system, answer questions, review case status, familiarize them with the Indiana Violent Crime and Compensation Fund. Essentially, they build rapport with victims and their family members so that we can gain their trust, promote the healing process, and ensure cooperation with pending cases. Victim assistants attend depositions and court hearings with victims to offer their support. They work with victims to assess needs, develop safety plans, and make referrals to outside agencies where appropriate. They identify barriers to victims' participation in criminal cases, such as potential lost wages, transportation difficulties, language barriers, and dependent care, work to address those barriers. While they're doing all this, they respond to numerous telephone calls, emails, and walk-ins throughout the day. And then they also coordinate and attend meetings with the assigned prosecutor. We have a need for a fourth position because felony filings have increased by 34% over the past 4 years. Felony cases often require more intensive services by the victim assistant. In domestic violence and other violent offenses, victim assistants also often have to safety plan with victims very quickly because many defendants are released to pretrial release at their initial hearing. Currently, individual caseloads are unmanageably high. One victim assistant in the office has 714 pending cases. Another who handles the intensive domestic violence caseload has 501 pending open cases. We have a third VA. She is the director of the program, and she is also on the child protection team. She works with the Susie's Place to attend forensic interviews of child victims. And she also handles the higher level cases such as homicides and cases that result in serious bodily injury. She has about 130 pending cases at this time. So, you know, you probably know that the VOCA grant currently funds about 30 to 40% of our victim assistant positions. When we wrote our grant for 2021, we asked for additional funding to add a 4th victim assistant position, and our request was granted. The grant terms, we could start drawing down as early as October 1st, but we wanted to follow your preferred budget procedure and are just asking to add this position to our staff and budget for 2021. The grant funding available is $16,585. And that would be paid from the VOCA grant fund. And then we're asking for the remaining costs for the position, including salary and benefits, be paid either from our county general fund or from PS Lit. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Oliphant. I saw Mr. McKim's hand first and then Ms. Munson.
Thanks, Ms. Oliphant. I guess I'd like to hear a little bit more about why you think that these felony rates are going up so much. I mean, are crime rates going up? Is there an increase in charging as felonies, or misdemeanors going up at the same rate as felonies, or are there more felonies than are what used to be misdemeanors are now being charged as felonies? I guess I'd just like to hear your insight on that.
Sure. So actually misdemeanor case filings has consistently been going down. And I think that's a little bit of a function of prioritization. I do think there has been an increase in the number of felonies that have been committed over the past 4 years. You know, there aren't that many. I would say there's been a trend more to moving from certain crimes being felonies to being misdemeanors now, versus the opposite of like things that used to be misdemeanors are now felonies. So I truly think we're looking at an increase in felony activity over the last 4 years.
And can you read those stats on the pending cases that the existing victim assistants have? I thought I heard correctly, but I heard something like 500. Is that?
Yeah, so actually one of our victim assistants has 714 active cases. The one who handles the domestic violence caseload, which is more intensive than some of the other cases, she has 501 open cases.
That is astounding. Thank you.
Yeah, it's really tough. I mean, you know, we have known for a while that they're really struggling to keep up with everything that we have to do by statute and provide good services to victims. So we started looking at these numbers, and that's what prompted us to add this into our VOCA grant request this year.
Thank you.
Ms. Munson?
Yes, Ms. Oliphant, I was very happy that you have grant funding of $16,000 plus. How much of the salary will county general or public safety lit need to provide for this new hire?
So I think that the total amount that we would need out of either public safety lit or county general would be $41,971. That's based on a 3-year hire. The salary would be $39,094. Health, dental, and insurance is $10,500. FICA $3,021, and then PERF is $5,551. And then for 3-year higher longevity would be $400.
Okay, and this this new position is in the proposed 2021 budget?
It is.
Thank you.
I saw Councilmember Hawk's hand first and then Mr. Iverson.
I just wondered, oh, whoops.
You're muted.
I keep trying to turn it off so you can't hear my dog bark.
There you go.
Okay, so and you might have told us this the other night or the other afternoon when we were discussing it, but do you already have someone in your department that you're going to move to this since you're looking at a 3-year hire?
No, we don't have anyone in particular in mind. I think we just did that as a generous bet to, I don't know, be safe in our
So it
request.
might not be that much because 3-year hire is that salary is higher, and as well as you might not need the longevity, but this is on the outside what you think it'll be. Could you shoot us an email giving us those numbers about your caseload? I didn't get all that written down, and I didn't see that in your documentation. So that would be those
I can do that.
caseloads. Right.
Would it be easiest to send that to Kim or Michelle?
That I would prefer if you could send one to me so that I'll have it for tomorrow, because Kim might not be able to get to everything tomorrow.
Okay, we'll do that.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Iverson?
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Alphin, for coming tonight. And as always, I remain impressed by your office. I think you're always doing things that I think are kind of at the forefront of criminal justice. And I was especially happy to hear you talk about the empowerment and what you're doing in terms of that with victim assistance. In your documentation, you did mention one of the impacts that pretrial release projects have on these types of numbers. And I was wondering if you could expound on what you meant in that statement about the impact of pretrial release on these increased caseloads.
Sure. So one function of the pretrial release program, which of course is designed to get away from cash bail and get people out of jail sooner so that they can not lose their jobs, their housing, and can become re-engaged with their community. It certainly is better for defendants if that can happen. You know, one of the functions of that is that many defendants, if not most defendants, are released from jail, you know, usually at their initial hearing, which is their first court appearance. And sometimes that's very early in the process. And so it's incumbent upon us to really hustle in the beginning of a case and make sure that a victim knows that someone's going to be released from jail potentially, find out if they need a no contact order to keep them protected, and then find out, you know, particularly in domestic violence cases, if they have a safety plan in place to make sure that they have somewhere to go in the event that someone is released from jail. In the past, you know, for a lot of domestic violence cases and more violent offenses, you really didn't see so many people being released that early in the process. They were either released at the earliest at a bail review that happens a few days after the initial hearing, or they were held in jail pending the disposition of the case.
Thank you.
Ms. Wiltz, did you have a question? Yeah, please. And then Mr. Deckard.
Yeah, I'm been thinking about just the criminal justice system more broadly, and we do have pending, hopefully, recommendations from a study that is supposed to take into account things like caseload and case management and how cases are being moved through the system. So that one, just being honest, kind of makes me hesitant to jump in changing anything. But at the same time, I'm cognizant that we've been waiting for these results for a while. So that's something just in my head. I guess my first question is, presumably you would lose the grant in funding if we did not act on this starting with the 2021 budget. Is that correct?
Thank you.
Yeah, so if we didn't, if we didn't use the grant, we would have to give that money back or not be able to draw it down.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think that there is a risk there. Here's what I'm going to say about the criminal justice study. We really were trying very hard to be transparent with the consultants, and I'm still, in contact with them, providing them more information about our office and about the process generally. And, I'm optimistic that we're going to get a good work product from them. But the truth of the matter is, I'm not sure how their study would incorporate victim assistance because it isn't something that necessarily moves cases through the system. It is something that follows like the deputy prosecutors and the other court participants and just provides information and support to the victims. So I'm not sure how this will be captured. I guess that's yet to be seen. One thing I'll say is I really do think that my victim assistance program needs this support and relief.
Sure. I mean, those numbers are crazy, your caseload numbers. And I guess and excuse the fact that I probably just don't know exactly how everything works. But it seems like one way that it could affect your need for victims assistance would be if you had fewer cases because they were moving through and out more quickly, that presumably, and if that's an issue, if the pace of cases moving is an issue, you would have less of a backup and backlog of people still in the system, presumably.
I have reason to believe that the speed of case processing is a big issue and that we do need to work on that. And that may be true, but I think that's going to be a few years down the road, honestly, before we would ever be able to get through what we've got pending before us.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate your candors. I'm still trying to kind of wrap my head around priorities. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So based on the data that you provided with these case numbers, to me, that just sounds like people are severely overloaded. Are there any benchmark data in terms of, what the average or what the preferred type of caseload would be for this type of position, Ms. Oliphant?
I'm not sure if there's a benchmark of what's ideal. We expect that if we're given this fourth position, that the average will be closer to 373 cases per VA. So it'll be more manageable, significantly more manageable, I think, for folks to handle. Yeah, so I honestly don't know if there's a standard or benchmark for that.
No, that's fair. Still, 370 some still sounds very high to me personally.
Yeah. If I can jump in, I did some research trying to find standards for caseloads for victim assistance or social workers in general, and I really couldn't find any statistics to back anything up.
No. Okay. Well, I think it's, to me, this sounds very necessary and I support it. And I just want to extend my appreciation to the prosecutor's office and your staff, particularly Ms. Hamlin as well, for the constant communication on these types of things that come up and keeping us informed and bringing this to our attention very early on in the process, which is, I feel like it just makes everything go so much smoother so that we have time to be able to put all the pieces and parts together to make these things work. I know you both were at our PAC meeting, which, come to find out, you probably didn't even need to be there for that because this is more of a council issue to consider, but I think that just goes to show and demonstrates your willingness to, provide the information that's going to be helpful to our decision making. So thank you so much for that. That is very, very much appreciated. Mr. Deckard?
Thank you very much. I wanted to jump in here as one of the liaisons for you. And I also appreciate when you first brought this to us, and particularly the numbers are very monumental when you hear that. I don't have quite the experience with casework that what you all are dealing with. I do recall when I was in federal service dealing with Social Security and Veterans Affairs that when you start getting into the hundreds, there starts to become problems for caseworkers to track and to just have time in a payable day to deal with all the things. And I know that there's some messy details that go into the legal system, what victims are dealing with. I guess a question that I would have that I think might be helpful for folks watching, I know we've said victims of domestic abuse. Can you describe other types of victims broadly that these caseworkers work with? I think sometimes until you're in the judicial or justice system, you don't quite understand what people are dealing with until you are dealing with that. Would you be willing to speak to that maybe just a little bit?
Sure, of course. I mean, we have a wide range of offenses that rely on the victim assistance program to keep the victims informed. It can be anything from leaving the scene of an accident resulting in either property damage or bodily injury to criminal mischief where property is damaged, all the way up to, you know, assault with a deadly weapon where someone is seriously injured, or even homicide. We keep family members, next of kin informed of how homicide cases are progressing. We have a lot of property crime, I'm sure you can imagine, you know, everything from robbery where someone, you know, takes something off of somebody with a force or threat of force, or, you know, writing checks that they can't really cash or that don't belong to them. Fraud on financial institutions. I mean, we really have a wide variety of offenses that we deal with, and some of them are more serious than others, but seriousness of the offense does not always indicate the need of the victim.
Well, thank you very much. And I know that in more recent years than not, there's been a lot of discussion in the community about the victims' access to the system and how things are going, and how disposition of outcomes affects the victims that are dealing with things. And so it's something definitely to be thinking about. And I appreciate you bringing this to us. And the numbers that you have offered are they're alarming, to say the very least. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further comments or questions for our prosecutor's office? I feel like we've got a good handle on what the issue is, what is needed, and I appreciate all the information. Is there anybody else that would like to add anything further? Okay. Well, thank you, Ms. Oliphant. Thank you, Ms. Hamlin, for joining us tonight, and we look forward to keeping in touch with you on this.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll now move on to what I think will be a very quick agenda
We
item.
can vote.
I think we're just having a discussion on that
Oh.
item.
Correct.
So we'll move on now to item 6, which is kind of an administrative thing that we have to do per a new statute, and I'll let Ms. Wiltz take it from here.
Council, I would like to introduce the declaration of fiscal body pursuant to the requirements of Indiana Code 6-1.1-17-20.6 to certify that the County Council is responsible for binding review and approval of the Monroe County Public Library's budget under Indiana Code 6-1.1-17-20.3 and 20.4, and to allow the council president to sign the declaration on behalf of the entire council.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. I see we have a representative from the library here, or library financial officer. I don't know if we'll need to, but if we might want to unmute his microphone. And Mr., is it Letelier?
Gary Lettler, yes,
sorry.
Library Finance Department.
Thanks for joining us.
Yes, this form is necessary because of a new DLGF requirement. And but the library hasn't increased its budget by more than the growth quotient in past years. But if they had, we've always known that the situation would trigger a binding review. So this just formalizes that budget review process. And if the increase is more than the growth quotient, then we know that we would be going to the council for the binding review, and be happy to answer any questions.
Ms. Hawk?
Yes, am I still muted? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I had wanted our council attorney to review the language because, and I don't have it in front of me, so this has been a long time ago that we looked at that language, but this is new language they just put in place. And I thought said it was going to be tied to population. And that being the case, the city council is tied to a higher population than the county council. Is that true, Margie? Are you, Ms. Rice, are you there? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. And I did look at this, and it's my understanding that it is the county council as the fiscal body. And I know that Kim and I checked on that and talked to the library. The library also thinks it's the county council. So
it always has been, but this new legislation changes that. I'm certainly not saying I want the city council to do it, but did that legislation not say it was tied to the population?
I think that it is, and I'm looking for my packet that I had pulled up here on my screen. So it's 6, 1.1, 17, 20. So, and the sections in 17, 20.3, 20.4, 20.6. I still think it's the county council. We can double check that again. And in fact, if you'd like us to contact the Department of Local Government Finance, that's certainly something we can do. We absolutely want to make sure that we get it right. So we can double check that again. I still think it's the county council, but we will contact the DLGF just to be sure.
Well, it certainly has always been the county council for the last, 30 years at least. But with that legislation change, I think that we may see something different, but yes, I think we should check it to make sure we're doing it correctly.
Absolutely.
We're getting ready for a big building project. We want to make sure that it all everything happens correctly.
Absolutely. No, I think that's a double check, and I will send you guys an email after we hear back from the DLGF.
Okay, so do we need to, I know the library's been waiting on this for quite a while. Is there, once we do confirm, and if it is the county council, can we add this on to an upcoming meeting that we have here in the next few days?
I think you can go ahead, again, I think you can go ahead and approve this. If we found out that it was wrong, we would be able to redo it. But I think that you're right, that they have been waiting. They provided this certification. I don't know if Mr. Lettler wants to talk about this, if he's had the same question raised to him.
This is the first time that that issue has been raised. And I'm just looking at this declaration form here, and I think, as long as we can do it by October 1st, I think that's the date that they have on here that they suggest it be completed by. So there's some time, and I think that yes, it's not a burning issue for us. And if there needs to be a little more time for some research on that, I don't see a problem.
Thank you. Councilmember Hawk?
Yes, perhaps we could put this motion on the floor to make it, and then making it subject to approval from the DLGF, so that Mr. Lettler will not have to come back if the DLGF says, no, you know, whatever, that legislation doesn't pertain to you for whatever reason, or whatever, then we'd have to do something else about it. But you know.
Yes. Agreed.
Can we pass something that said, you know, that the council president has authority to sign it as soon as we get approval from DLGF?
Yeah.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I second Marty's motion to amend.
Okay, any comments or questions on Ms. Hawk's motion? Is there any public comment on Ms. Hawk's motion? We'll do a roll call vote, please.
Councilor Munson,
Yes.
Councilor McKim,
Yes.
Councilor Deckard,
Yes.
Councilor Hawk,
Yes.
Councilor Spoonmore,
Yes.
Councilor Iverson,
Yes.
Councilor Wiltz.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Okay, so my signature on this declaration will be pending the approval of DLGF. Our council attorney will get back in touch with us as soon as she hears back on that. And we can go ahead and take a vote now on, well, let me check and see if there's any public comment first on this item before we vote. Seeing none, we'll vote to approve the declaration. Okay.
The declaration of fiscal body pursuant to the
declaration
aforementioned code.
Okay.
And allowing council president to sign the declaration on behalf of the entire council pending approval from DLGF.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. So we can do a roll call.
Councilor Iverson,
Yes.
Councilor Spoonmore,
Yes.
Councilor Hawk,
Yes.
Councilor Wiltz,
Yes.
Councilor Deckard,
Yes.
Councilor McKim,
Yes.
Councilor Munson.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Okay. Thank you. And we'll be in touch, Mr. Lettler.
Thanks to everyone.
Thank you. Okay, on to item number 7 now, which is a discussion and approval of Wagner Irwin Shealy letter of engagement for job classification and compensation study.
Council, I open up for discussion, letter of engagement between Wagner, Irwin, and Shealy, and move to approve the Personnel Administration Committee's recommendations to move forward with option 1 for an all-county employee positions review, including elected officials, for a total not to exceed $98,700.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Ms. Rice, could you provide some additional background, and then we'll also check in with our PAC president, Mr. Deckard, as well too.
Absolutely. So you all should have received a copy of the memorandum that was sent by Wagner, Irwin, and Shealy. And they have recommended, we asked them to give us sort of an estimate of what it would cost to do a county-wide review of our job descriptions, our job classifications. And we asked them to give us a proposal if we did it in 1 phase or if we did it in 2 phases. We did receive that. You have copies of that. We talked about it at a PAC meeting, and the PAC members, I think, felt as well as staff that it would make sense to do this if you're going to do this project in one phase as opposed to two. There are some cost savings if you do it in one phase. And also you don't have to worry about some departments or some classifications feeling as if they sort of got put on the back burner. This is a project much like what we in Monroe County did in 2006, where we had our consultants review our job descriptions, review our classifications, and align everything so that we were consistent across Monroe County. They, at that time, had recommended a process by which we could follow this process and stay in alignment. Kim, Shell, and I inventoried our job descriptions and salary ordinance and found out that there were some inconsistencies. Our job descriptions no longer match what Wagner, Irwin, Shealy have in their files for us. And so it's our recommendation that you seriously consider accepting this proposal and doing this work. And then we can, and I've talked with Kent Irwin about how do we sort of set this up so that we really do follow it and we don't allow exceptions to be made that would get us off track. I know it seems like a lot of money, but if you're just sort of doing job descriptions and salary classifications and all those things in an ad hoc manner, you might very well end up spending as much money as you would spend on the study in sort of a mistake here or a mistake there. So I'm happy to answer questions. I know Kim Shell has been on the phone with Wagner, Irwin, Shealy as well. Kim, you may have some thoughts that you want to share with the council from your perspective, because I know over the years you've dealt with some of the issues and some of the mistakes we've had related to job descriptions and job classifications.
Yeah, I've been in contact with Lori from WIS, and her thought was to just basically, I'm sorry, I guess there's a lot of feedback.
It looked like, there we go. Try it now, Kim.
There was a lot of that the council had approved things and had just kind of gone off the track with regards to approving the job descriptions. And so when I was talking to Lori about this, her recommendation is to just treat us as if we don't even have job descriptions on file with them, that they would just start with what we have currently, what we're using currently, and that would be our base. And then they would build from those, since that's kind of where we're at anyway, since we're just so off kilter with regards to what WIS has on file. So she said if there's any time, what they recommend is if you are going to add duties, and the duties are substantial, send it to WIS. If you're just making a language change, correcting spelling, things like that, that does not have to go to WIS for a review. So I think there were some things that were done prior where duties were added and this kind of thing, and recommendations were not adhered to by the council. There's been a few where I have found WIS recommendations and council chose not to go with the WIS recommendation. So I just think we should either go all in, and if we're going to use WIS, we stay with WIS, or we continue in the mess that we have. So, I don't know how else to say it. So,
yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for the for the helpful background information. And so as a member of PAC, this recommendation is being brought to council with the full support of all members of PAC. It was a unanimous vote by all members, as I recall. But I'll let Mr. Deckard speak a little bit more on this as well, too. Mr. Deckard, do you have anything that you'd like to add as president of PAC?
Thank you very much. I just want to say that, yes, it was a unanimous vote, the PAC committee to move this forward to council for consideration. And let me just make some general comments on some of the things that are sort of noticeable in our processes and what we really want to get to as a county to make sure, or reinforce with the county to make sure that we're doing everything appropriately. First of all, as has been said in many public meetings over the last year, county government has an extreme amount of individuals that are that influence what we do and are in control of what we do. We have elected officials by across the board. We have different executives within that. We have different department heads within that, and you have a realm of things in each department that are being done. And unlike a city, there's many different heads doing many different things with great goals. The issue, I think, as I see it, is over the years, a classification is not the first thing that someone thinks of when they're managing a counter of very busy county offices. But the reality is each department has their needs, and each department can make a strong and tremendous case for what that classification should look like, certainly. What we have talked a lot about as a county is making sure that all of our processes, all of our classifications across the board are done so in a way that is fair to county employees for the jobs and duties that they end up doing. And that with that, you get some form of accuracy about those duties, and that you have a system, whether it's in the clerk's office or the health department, by which apples are being compared approximately to apples. And I think what Kim is talking about and what Margie has been talking about is that as PAC has gone about what we've done, as departments have done what they needed, elected officials done what they needed, apples and oranges have been a little bit more the case. And as I said in the PAC meeting, I think everyone has great intentions. They're just trying to serve the people of Monroe County, and that's tremendous. The issue is when we make a change here, we leave our fingerprint on just that spot, and we might need to be making a change over here. And I think what WIS is proposing is to take our system, make some more uniformity to it and that fairness, so that you can safely say, among department heads, this is what that job looks like, this is what it doesn't look like, and then even from there begin to make other decisions about how compensation, how other things eventually we get to that. And I know that's important to county employees, but the baseline is, what do people do? And is that, if I'm a county employee, do I have a guarantee that that's the fairest job description and classification that I could get? And I think this does this. The one thing that Margie and Kim both said that I wholeheartedly agree with is the price tag on this does look a little bit high, and I'm always averse to things that seem to have higher prices. What I would say is I think the department heads that are managing these processes already, not to mention our council staff, not to mention even council time, is eating up so many hours that may not be producing the best product, that this could get us back onto track if we keep it and maintain the system. And so I think that's kind of I'm trying to synthesize some of the frustration that we've picked up on. And certainly we've heard from department heads that, talk about that fairness and talk about the across the board thing. I don't think anyone ever has been acting from bad intentions, at least not that I think, but certainly we want that fingerprint to be universal as we make changes to classifications across the county, whether it's EXCs, PATs, comments, polls, LTC, and even looking at elected officials. What do people do? How are things classified here? So with that, I just echo my support for this moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Deckard. Let's see here. I saw lots of hands go up, but I'll check in with Council Member Hawk first, and she's a member of PAC. And then I saw Ms. Munson and Mr. McKim in that order.
Yes. What am I doing?
There we go.
Okay, here we go. One of the word of caution that I gave at the PAC meeting, and I'll repeat it now, is that many times when we do something like this, then everybody has expectations that this could end up with people getting a raise, and that might not even happen. All of that will have to do with the budget and how we can work out our revenue. And we don't even know what our revenue for sure is going to be at this point. So I wouldn't want anybody who works for county government to think that if we do this, it's going to result in immediate raises or changes. And so I just wanted to share that because we don't know where we are right now. Maybe our auditor's is going to give us a better heads up in revenue here later on this evening, but I just want to make sure people aren't sitting back there counting on a big raise. Might not happen.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Munson?
Yes, I recall a number of discussions about WIS classifications in my time on the council. And we had a major study in 2016 of compensation. And just today I found a report that our work group sent to the council. And I had looked for this and I couldn't find it anywhere in my council files. It turns out it's a Google Doc that I retrieved, and I'll share it with the whole council so you can see what we pondered just 4 years ago. I think I do know that we haven't always followed WIS's recommendations, and this I believe is primarily due to the fact that we had employees supervising other employees, and they had to have higher compensation because of this. So I think it's important for WIS to receive from every department an organization chart. And that needs to be part of their understanding. So I do have a few questions. PAC has recommended option 1. And how long will that take?
I can answer that question. And first, Kim and I have been working with Elizabeth, and Elizabeth was getting organizational charts together already. If she hasn't already, Kim, I thought she already sent them to Wagner and Julie, but she may be working on a few still. But no, you're right.
I was going to say, with regards to the org charts, Elizabeth is taking care of that.
Right.
We've met with almost all of the departments with regards to their needs as they see there's a few of them that I still haven't been able to get with. And honestly, I've been working on budget stuff, so that's kind of been a little bit of a backseat for me right now. But with regards, that was one of the things with the meetings was updating org charts. And that is one of the requirements with WIS. Lori sent me a to-do list if this went through of certain things that she's going to need from us. And one of them is org charts. So we've already on top of that.
Yeah, yeah. Right. And the study, they said about 9 to 10 months. Could get it done sooner, they certainly would, but they expect it to take about that long. And a lot of it also depends upon, whether they have to do a lot of desk audits. I will be very honest, I think, and Kim, jump in here if you think I'm misspeaking or if you want to add in. Over the years, we've had departments consult with other departments about how they've modified their job descriptions in order to try to get a higher classification, which is kind of the backwards way to do it. You really are supposed to just honestly describe the position, and wherever that lands in the classification system is where it lands, rather than saying, I want to write this because I'm trying to get to a PAT 4 or a PAT 5. The idea that I think departments have had is, hey, if I can get to that higher classification, I'm going to get a higher salary. And we are trying to educate departments to say that's not what you do. You just describe the job, and then we're going to let this independent third party classify it, and the council, PAC, and the council will review that and ultimately vote on it. So, you know, the thing is, if there's a lot of monkey business that sort of has to be sorted through, that's going to take us a little bit longer. It's going to take us a little bit longer to do it. But the advantage of having a third party, an independent third party looking at our system is they're a lot more likely to spot something that looks out of alignment and call us out on that, which is largely what you're, you know, a lot of what you're paying for is their expertise, but also their unbiased, independent review of the system. And I think it's worth taking the 9 or 10 months to get it right, because hopefully then again, we said in 2006, if we do this and follow, we're never gonna have to do it again. Well, we did it, but we didn't follow our system to upkeep it. So that's gonna be key. The maintenance of it is gonna be key going forward.
And I've already talked to Elizabeth as well as Jordan with regards to consistency with regards to changes, so that if somebody does like want to make a request, there's a certain step-by-step procedure that's going to have to be followed. So they can't, a department head can't just make a request without following certain steps. So we want to work with WIS and develop a good plan so that HR as well as the council office are both consistent on how we handle departments.
Yeah, and ultimately the buck legally and statutorily stops with the council. So the council is the authority for classifying positions. And so you guys are the ones who ultimately get to decide what the classifications are. And to the extent that you are willing to stay consistent and you know, not have a one-off here and a one-off there, then you know we'll be in pretty good shape in terms of keeping this in line.
Okay, Mr. McKenna, comment?
Yeah, so I guess just first of all, to follow up on Ms. Rice's comments, it is true that what we want departments to do is honestly describe the job, and then let the chips fall where they may. But then the other piece of maintaining that is going to be desk audits. I mean, that to be able to maintain the integrity of the system, you do have to periodically audit the positions to make sure that they still do, after they've been approved, that they do actually in the daily work environment meet the what's described in the job description. You need to make sure that that continues to happen. And then I guess just my comment on the cost. I mean, yeah, it seems like a lot in one bite, but let's face it, we have underfunded our HR department for a long time. We have half or fewer than half the number of HR positions that we probably should have with an organization our size. So in effect, we've chosen to outsource the classification management system or the classification management function of HR to Wagner Irwin Sheely. And that's fine. That's a legitimate decision. But I think in that context, the price tag really doesn't seem all that high. We have just chosen to exist on a valiant and stalwart, but very small HR staff employed by the county.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. McKenna. I think those just great points that you made, and fully agree 100%. You know, to me, this is something where objectivity is essential, and you know, the assistance and partnership with Wagner Irwin Shealy allows us to provide that objectivity as we go through this process. I wish we could do it sooner. I wish we could get this wrapped up in a faster time frame than 9 months, but this is the time that it takes. We need to invest the time to make sure that we get it right. And then, as so many others have mentioned here tonight, the key going forward is going to be maintenance of this system. And I think we have all the pieces in place to do that now. I don't know that we did in the past, but I think we're very well situated to make sure that we're maintaining this system going forward for future success. So I'll be supporting it and hope that others will as well. Any other questions or comments? Ms. Wiltz?
Yes, thank you. I had a few different questions, and but I wanted to start with a comment based on something that Councilor McKim just said. And I know that you have been working with our HR staff on this, and they have been included, but I don't think it can be emphasized enough the extent to which our 2 HR employees need to be involved at every step of the way, as simply as a training and learning opportunity for them. They are a young, scrappy HR department that's doing great. I'm not at all implying they're not, but I know how much they believe in training for others and themselves, and I think that it would be a disservice for them to miss any step of this process. And of course, with the need for a maintenance aspect, it certainly would just do us a favor too, to bring them along. So that was just, my 2 cents on that. I did have questions. There's travel mentioned in the letter of engagement, but most of what they can do, they being WIS, could be done from a distance with the exception of, I'm guessing, a desk audit. Are we anticipating that they really need to travel, especially in this kind of current health situation?
I think travel will be limited. There will be some times that I think they have to come down here to meet with the department. For example, we have a couple of departments, larger departments, that are looking for an entire reclassification of their department. That may involve some desk audits. But given that we have COVID, everybody's going to try to limit that as much as possible. And they can do Zoom meetings if necessary.
Was there any discussion of having our HR department do the desk audit component? Or,
I can answer that. I've talked to Elizabeth several times about this, and she just does not feel like currently that she is qualified to do that. Maybe if she had some training from WIS, that kind of thing, if they're willing to do something like that. But right now, she does not feel like that she is capable of doing desk audits.
Okay. And that's perfectly fair. And I think kind of emphasizes what I was saying before. If she can shadow them to whatever extent, that would be really great.
Well, I think I know that Elizabeth and I are going to be involved with a lot of this. I just don't know how much until, we can get with them and find out what we need to do. So.
Right. And I'm not trying to leave you out, Kim, with my comments. You're actually mentioned in the letter of engagement, I think it's called. Your position's mentioned. And so that's why I kind of focused on the one that wasn't. But
right.
Certainly. The opportunity for development is I think very important. Also, what was my last one? Oh, are they looking at only full-time, or are they considering part-time as well? I know we don't have job descriptions for all of our part-time, but we've talked about that. Is that part of this at all?
I don't, Margie, you can, say something, but I think right now it is for full-time positions.
Yeah, that's right. This is focusing on full-time. If the council determines that you want job descriptions for the more permanent part-time positions, that's always something that we can talk to them and see if they think that's a good idea and work into it. I can't imagine that that's going to result in very much of an increase if that's something you guys want to add on.
Well, I personally would be interested in at least pursuing the question to find out what they thought about it being worthwhile.
We can do that. And I think as soon as I've been in touch with Ken Irwin and let him know that, we'd let him know if this got passed. And then I think that Kim is going to sit down with Lori and Addie Rooker and figure out next steps. So we can definitely ask them what it would take to look at our permanent part-time positions.
That would be great. And I assume that in your discussions, you've let them know how much, the two of you, Kim and Margie, have worked on this project for a year.
Yeah.
Kind of leading up to it. Gathering everything, organizing everything, comparing job descriptions. So the cost estimate, I assume, takes that into account.
Yeah. Like I said, I've been talking with Lori, and I was telling her what I was doing. I was meeting with each department, gathering up, what they, would need or felt like they needed in changes and this kind of thing. And she said, well, you've kind of already done, a little bit of it, for them. So I haven't, like I said, I haven't got everybody, but I'm going to turn all that information over to them, that, well, this department says, this job description's fine, but this one and this one needs to be looked at. So that kind of gives them an idea of what they're going to be looking at. So yeah, we've already, they know that we've already taken a lot of steps moving in this direction of engaging them. So.
Okay, great. I'll leave it at that. I think we're good. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. McKim?
Yes, Ms. Shell or Mr. Spoonmore, I'm just wondering if there has been any discussion about how to fund this. Would we just do an additional appropriation in the council budget, or are you thinking of, did you have some other source in mind?
Well, currently, what I've requested in the budget is $25,000 for the 2021, and we still have. Without looking, I can't tell you. We still have some contractual left in the 2020 budget, which we could encumber once we have a contract with WIS. So I could get that number to you tomorrow to let you know how much more we would need.
Okay, but the idea is to come forward with an additional request for this year, or would it, or would we only have to pay in 2021, and should we think about increasing the number in the budget submission for 2021?
I know that we have, I just received a letter, a bill from WIS with regards to work that they did last year. They're really bad about billing late. And so they sent one. If you want to hold on a second, I can tell you how much.
Well, no, I'm just thinking of general strategy. Do we do an additional this year, or do we think that we have enough to get through this year? And
well, no, we're not, because I'm going to be spending approximately $7,000 on this bill, which encompasses from June of 2019 through and including July of 2020, of work that they've done with regards to like last year's stuff up until the moratorium, and then some stuff that we have sent to them recently within the last couple months. So we will have to at least, I would say, budget for next year, increasing that amount. And finding out what they expect for the remainder of this year.
So to be determined, really. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Until I can talk to them.
Well, one thing that we would have to factor in is that 9 to 10 month window of when this would start. For departments and others, and for us, that's part of the equation too, as we figure that out.
And I would like to see that clock start ticking on the 9 to 10 month process as soon as possible if we can. I know that we have a lot of employees, a lot of elected officials who would like us to probably start looking at these things as quickly as possible. And so I would be in favor of whatever we would need to do to get started as quickly as possible if this passes tonight. Any other questions or comments? Any public comment on this? I don't see any public comments, so we'll do a roll call vote, please. Ms. Miller?
On the motion to approve option number 1 for the job classification and compensation study by Wagner, Irwin, and Shealy Incorporated. Councillor Wiltz?
Yes.
Councillor Hawk?
Yes.
Councillor Deckard?
Yes.
Councillor Iverson?
Yes.
Councillor McKim?
Yes.
Councillor Munson?
Yes.
Councillor Spoonmore?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, sorry.
Let's go.
All right. So now moving on to item number 8. This will be a discussion regarding the Monroe Fire Protection District 2021 budget. Chief Dillard and Ms. Robinson with the district is here with us tonight. And I'd like to introduce Chief Dillard with the Monroe Fire Protection District. He'll give us an update on the merger and the increases that has been requested with their 2021 budget. Hello, Chief Dillard. Welcome, and thanks for joining us tonight.
Good evening. Thanks for having us. So, first off, I just want to tell you that when I came before you guys in 2018 for the 2019 budget that included Indian Creek, the process for Van Buren Township and Bloomington Township, the conversation was well underway, especially that of Van Buren Township. And we knew that when things were completed in 2019, that it was going to be a big budget year in 2020 for us to prepare for 2021. And I guess in saying that, it's really hard to compare what the district budget looks like now and what it will look like January 1. The actuals for the current district are simply 3 townships that we currently have. The 2020 budget is simply the same 3 townships. And in 2021, we have all of Van Buren Township, Bloomington Township, and then we also are looking at contractually providing fire protection to Washington and Benton Townships in conjunction with the contracts we already have in Salt and Polk Townships. So very, very big changes. In fact, this is a tripling of what the current MFPD looks like. And, in addition to the tripling, I know many of you are probably familiar with conversations we've had since the public safety income tax came into play in 2016. But we've got additional staffing in this budget to meet those National Fire Protection Association staffing standards. So, in addition to merging the 3 together, we have more on top of that that really make for a massive budget. So it's impossible to compare the current district to 2021's budget without expressing the scale of this operation. In 2021, we're going to serve 45,000 Monroe County citizens, which makes up 19,000 of the housing units and it's funded by approximately 40% of Monroe County's total assessed valuation. The fire district's going to cover 317 square miles, which is 77% of Monroe County. There's salary changes in this. It was actually kind of fun to listen to the conversation you just had. These salary changes were based off of a statewide salary survey that was completed by White River Township Fire Protection District, which is probably the most comparable fire district to the current fire district in the state. But after this merger, there will really be no other fire districts, you know, in the same, obviously the geographic expansion, the population and whatnot. So the salaries that you'll see in the new budget are based on that survey that was completed in Johnson County that was statewide. That also includes research from the certified salary survey that was completed by the Indiana Public Retirement System. Our current firefighters are on the 1977 police and fire pension. And I'll get into that a little bit more later, but there's an annual survey to look at the salaries there. Specific details for each position's pay base, the rank, different incentive pays, education pays, all of those types of compensation is detailed in the district salary ordinance. And honestly, there'll be minimal changes to the current salary ordinance, with the exception of updating some figures. The district really offered a lot more forms of compensation than the other departments. So in merging with them, the salary ordinance doesn't change all that much. Our administrative assistant salaries are based on actually reviewing your salary ordinance and the basis that those two positions are the equivalent to PAT 4 classification. So go ahead and hurry up on your study so I can figure out what we need to set those at in the future. This budget merges 3 fire departments of similar sizes and includes the minimum necessary to meet the staffing standards that I mentioned earlier. The budget's the product of work that dates back really to early 2017. And that's when we started talking with Van Buren Township. And it's been publicized in various news media, public meetings, newspapers, radio, multiple times since. And again, you know, from the earliest merger with Indian Creek Township, when Trustee Sorensen came to a board meeting and told us she wanted to join, and we learned this process. We've learned a lot. We came a long way, and we've had a lot of opportunity to prepare ourselves for this. So, you know, the township trustees, the chiefs of the various fire departments that are involved, and myself, we've completed a significant amount of homework in the past few years. And I'm pretty happy with the budget that we're presenting you guys. Our original minimum budget, $11.4 million, and we're over $500,000 under that original proposal. So, you know, approval of this budget is going to allow us to meet all the standards we've discussed at all 3 of those locations. You know, the district currently has 1 station that meets those standards, and that's the only one of the 7 stations. So I'm excited for the opportunities. If you want, I can get into numbers, or I can just kind of give you a rundown, if you will, of some various lines that you'll see the most significant changes. How would you prefer we proceed?
Is there a preference from council? Would you like to have Chief Dillard just kind of give us a quick overview of the main areas? Why don't you do that? Okay. And then we can get into some questions and things after that.
Okay, perfect. So as far as chief officers, the chief position reduces from 3 to 1, obviously. The deputy chief positions remain at a level of 4. However, we're repurposing 2 of those. One will be dedicated to community risk reduction, which practices preventing emergencies and strengthening our community's resilience. And that ranges from, you know, public education to slips and falls in some of the nursing homes, to fire prevention in the schools, to preparing for, you know, earthquakes, tornadoes, and disasters such as gas explosions or whatnot. The second position would be dedicated to overseeing the district's facilities, which when this is all said and done would include 7 fire stations, 3 training sites, 5 storage facilities, and then an administrative office, as well as a fleet of about 50 firefighting apparatus and videos. A training chief and assistant chief of administration would remain. Those positions currently are in the works at various departments in the district. When we merge, those positions would remain. One assistant chief would oversee logistics. That's over 250 sets of fire gear, all the miscellaneous tools and equipment at each station on each rig. Lots of capital assets there. 6 of our current operational personnel would promote to a new rank, which is battalion chief. That's a position that's on 24 hours and off 48. So they work on the firefighter rotation and they see shift operations 24/7, 365 days a year in that 317 square miles. This budget includes 13 additional full-time positions and 20 full-time equivalents, so part-time positions. These are highly skilled firefighters that are included in the budget. And these positions help us meet the promises that we've made in those public hearings, in those media presentations to get to those staffing standards. 8 of those full-time positions are going to be necessary January 1 of 2021, and the additional 5 would be necessary in the second half of the same year. So in the Social Security Medicare, there's some room here. And as I explained to Councilor Hawk, Munson, and McKim, we are merging with 2 departments that are on a different pension system. And the 77 fund has a lot of different stringent requirements. So some of the folks that transfer over will be remaining on their PERF pension, but some will be eligible to transfer into the 77 fund. Currently, INPERS is doing a review so they can provide information to those individuals to see which benefits them most. But preferably, we would like to see the more people that can transfer into the 77 fund, because when you look at Social Security, the 77 fund folks do not pay Social Security. They pay a pension based on their certified salary, which is their base and maximum longevity, and that's the only amount that's paid into that pension. The regular PERF, you're paying for every dollar made, you're paying the pension, and you're paying Social Security. So there's a substantial difference in those payroll taxes and the benefits. So the more folks that are on 77 fund, the more we save in those areas. As people hire in, by law, they're required to be 77 fund eligible, but in the merger, we're allowed to have both. So in the Social Security area, the PERF area, right now, I have no option but to budget that everyone that's not on the 77 fund stays there. So that means every overtime dollar, the officer pay that those individuals might receive, the incentive pays those individuals might receive, all of that has to be factored into that PERF pension and the Social Security line. Whereas the more 77 folks we have, the less that applies to those categories. As mentioned earlier, the administrative assistants, there are 2. Those are the 2 current positions that we have. The salary in this is based on the Monroe County PAT 4. We're looking at an IT specialist and a mechanic. These job descriptions have not yet been finalized, and it's possible these positions won't occur until later in 2021. However, if you look at the 3 combined service expenses of the merging departments, the costs that we're paying now exceeds what it would cost us to hire folks to focus on our own IT network and devices, especially now that we have the MDTs in each of our apparatus that'll need maintained after this first year's up, and then all of the fleet. Trustee compensation, it adjusts to include the 2 additional members on the board. The board will expand to 5. Each township that's officially in the district will then have representation. Holiday pay reflects 27 personnel on duty in the district at all times. And during those 10 holidays, the district has approved each of those individuals receive a $100 incentive for working. those positions don't have the day off. They must work. So there's an additional compensation there. Health insurance is currently set at averaging our current expenses, which comes out to approximately $15,000 a full-time employee. We're going to be eligible to shop for large group insurance, and I've been told that we should see some significant savings. We actually saw some significant savings this year anyway, but come November of this year, we're able to shop and get a more comprehensive number. In the supplies and services categories, really everything's based on the combination of the merging departments. Some lines, such as the computer support, the vehicle maintenance, and repairs, are going to see a decrease. Obviously, the sooner that we're able to hire those folks on, but you know, until that happens, we still got to have the funds there to cover some of those things. Utilities, based on the current costs, you know, same as fuel and operating and all of those things. And that pretty much sums up the general fund. The cumulative fund's a little more simple. You know, our cumulative fund will be reestablished. That's at a 3.33% rate. That'll apply to all 5 townships that are in the district. And in the budget for 2021, we've got 1 engine replacement. That's a 2008 engine that needs replaced. NFPA says 10 years on the front line and 10 years in reserve. So we'll be able to replace a 12-year-old frontline vehicle and place it into reserve. It also includes the acquisition of a Quint, which is a ladder truck. This is currently owned by Bloomington Township, but this would allow us to purchase that before their new truck comes in. We're getting a good deal on it, and we'll be able to move that down to the Eagle Point. In the past, we've had to rely on Bloomington Township, the city of Bloomington, or Ellettsville to provide a ladder truck when we had a fire, and we'll have our own down there at the point. And that's something that's been needed since the late 80s. So that's in this budget. Small vehicles such as the squads, the brush trucks, the support vehicles, there's a line item to replace some of those. And then gear. If you look at gear, we're going to have to purchase at least 25 sets of fire gear a year. That's the helmet, coats, pants, boots, and then things like gloves, flashover hoods, etc. And FPA says those things have a 10-year life. So if we've got 250 sets, we need to budget to replace that each year. And then miscellaneous equipment, there's a budget for that, which is just fire hose, emergency lighting, sirens, radios, hand tools, all of those types of things. The final thing in the cumulative fund is kind of a sore subject, but it's the PS Lit funds pending council approval. We had asked for money for a mobile repeater, a squad replacement, and some station modifications to accommodate the additional staffing we're bringing in. And we have approximately $86,000 already in that line from PS Lit from this year, but we had to put the project on hold due to COVID-19. So some of those funds we still have, we're still going to utilize in the manner in which we received it. But unfortunately, you all know where the recommendations are now, and we're kind of at the mercy of some changing minds at the tax council level or at the county council level. So that's pretty much everything in a nutshell. I hope I didn't bore you too much, but there's a lot of information, so I apologize, but I have to throw it at you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate the presentation there. Let's check with council now and see if there's any questions or comments that we can address here. Did I see Mr. McKim's hand?
Yes, and actually, I also see that Lori's hand is up, so she may want to have. I don't know if she wants to add something to the presentation before.
Sure. Yeah. And Lori Robinson is here. Hello, Ms. Robinson.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
There you go. I just wanted to mention that the budget spreadsheet in the packet is not the board approved budget. I had resent that over to council. Hopefully you all have the new budget in your possession, which has about a $66,000 reduction already included.
Okay.
So I guess my question is, and Chief Dillard, appreciate your presentations. As always, we already have gone over the numbers in great detail. So my main question for for the group here, for you to answer the group, is really, in your opinion, after we after January 1st, will the Monroe Fire Protection District meet the standards that would be eligible for an automatic aid agreement with the city?
Yeah, all of the information we've been given in the past as to why automatic aid ended. Currently, Station 11 is the only station that would meet that. Station 11, which I'm going to go by the new number, so I apologize. Station 22, Station 29, and Station 25. All of the stations that had automatic aid with the city would then be in compliance with that. That is 100% correct. The only stations that are a little bit different are stations 23, which is out in Indian Creek, and station 24, which would be staffed by contract at Benton Township. Those stations have 2 people. They would operate as a tanker company, which meets those standards, but they are not an engine company. So that is a slight difference. They meet the standards, but it's a different type of apparatus responding. However, as years go on and we plan to phase this in the next 5 to 10 years, it's my goal to have all of our fire stations at the engine company standards. But no, all of the stations around the city and included in the previous agreements will meet those requirements.
Thank you. And I'd like to come back to tax rates, but I'll give my colleagues a chance to ask first.
Michelle, did you have?
I just wanted to let you know that the updated budget is in your Dropbox. I didn't get it and actually realized that I had it until after the packet had gone out. So.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or comments from council members? Ms. Munson?
Yes, Mr. Dillard. I think it would be helpful for the public to be able to see the budgets for 2020 for Northern Monroe Fire Territory and Van Buren, both for their general fund and for their CUME Fire Fund. And I mean general fire and CUME Fire. And I don't expect you to have that information ready to tell us tonight, but could you share that with us so that when it comes time for the district to bring its budget to the council work session, that we have this information?
Absolutely. I will request that information immediately after this, and then I will create a spreadsheet with a side-by-side comparison and then a total for everything.
That'd be great.
I'll have that to you by the end of next week.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Anytime.
Great. Thank you. Councilmember Hawk.
Do you have, did I understand you correctly that you have Baker Tilly working on getting new numbers for us so that we can see? I think the biggest thing here for the public is just to see what their tax rate is now for fire and what it will be when this is approved, so that there's no surprises. Everybody will just have an idea of where we're headed with this.
Yeah.
And so I thought I understood you to say that they're working on that and getting that updated. And you did send us something that was being presented to Benton. Is that correct?
That's correct. At the beginning of August, we had 3 additional public presentations for the inclusion of Benton Township. In regards to Baker Tilly, are going to reach out to Paige, but Paige was out of office until yesterday, so we were delayed in getting that taken care of. But I'm going to get some updated numbers from Paige but I can tell you some numbers that we have that include the CUME fund. And in Bloomington Township, they're currently looking at a fire rate of basically, and I'm not going to say it in percentage terms, I'm just going to say it in cents. It's 33 cents, and we're looking at going to 39. In Van Buren, 25.2, going to 39. Everyone would be going to the same rate at 39. In Perry, Clear Creek, and Indian Creek, they're at 16.3. But mind you, most of their change does not come from additional items in the budget. It comes from a balancing out of the cost of the current budgets. So in the fire district, there's one rate across all of the assessed value. So when you take a township with a higher rate, and in this instance, Van Buren's at 25.2, Bloomington Township's at 33, and Perry, Clear Creek, Indian Creek are at 16.3. When you put all those together and they average out, Perry, Clear Creek, Indian Creek, they have an increase just in the merging with Van Buren and Bloomington Township. The additional reason to the increase is not so much the increase in the budget itself, it's the lack of certified shares of the income tax. So the income tax is distributed, and I'm not just explaining it to you guys, I know that you get it, but for those watching, the income tax is based on the property tax levies in the county, and it's kind of an averaged out type of thing. But going into 2021, the only income tax that the fire district is going to receive is the fire district's current levy. So the small 1/3 of this organization is what our income tax is going to be based off of. So it's more funded by property taxes. So in year one, we've got a higher property tax rate than any of the other years that we're going to see because it's funded from that source alone. Not necessarily alone, but essentially we're getting 1/3 of the income tax that we would be getting. In year two, we see about a $1.5 million bump in the income tax we receive, which means there's basically a $1.5 million relief in that rate. So when everyone sees themselves jump into 39.5, Page's estimations for Benton Township were once everything levels out, we're looking at more of a 30-cent range. And I've said all along in our public meetings, my goal is to drive that down to a quarter. It may just take a couple of years to get there.
Yes, Mr. Kemp.
Yeah, may I kind of follow up on that and actually project the numbers that the calculations that I had done?
Please.
And the only reason why I kind of want to harp on the tax rates is simply because having gone through the Northern Monroe merger, there are a lot of taxpayers who kind of didn't pay attention to the tax implications until they actually got their bills. And then, the county was flooded with calls. We had angry I'm on the executive committee for Northern Monroe. We had angry taxpayers there. I just want to make sure that everybody is fully aware of what is happening here as we move forward. I do completely support this merger and I support this budget. And I think you've done a terrific job of explaining it. And I just want to make sure that everyone is aware of what's probably in store. And so let's see if I'm allowed to share my screen. I think I am. Okay, and so does everybody see the spreadsheet here?
Yes.
And so essentially what we have here, and this just recaps the numbers that Dustin just gave. It's really no different. The 2020 fire rate, which includes for Bloomington and Van Buren townships some fire debt that wouldn't normally transfer over, but they're paying it off anyway. So those rates are going to drop out of fire. So I've taken into account the fact that those debts are going to be paid off, along with the latest number for the fire rate that Lori gave me that includes the CUME rate. And so what we see in orange are simply the percentage changes in fire rate alone going from 2020 to 2021. And of course, the fire rate is only a small part of a taxpayer's overall bill. So those percentages look huge, but in reality, it's a relatively small portion of their overall tax bill. So that's why I did the the calculations that are in yellow. And these are essentially, this is if everything else stays the same. So it's not, you can't bank on these numbers because everybody's tax rates might change a little bit from all the different units that serve them. But if everything else was the same except for the Monroe Fire District, then the townships would see the rates, the rate changes that are in yellow. So indeed, Bloomington would see, because Bloomington would see the smallest increase, simply because we already have a much higher fire rate. And as Dustin mentioned, because to some degree, because of the rebalancing, the Clear Creek, Indian, and Perry would see a much more substantial rate increase, with then Van Buren in the middle. So I'm happy to, field any discussion on this. And I talked with Lori a little bit about it before, and I think we agreed on those numbers. I don't want to put words in your mouth, Lori.
And so in 2022, do we have estimates of when that starts to?
And I think that's that is an incredibly important point. I'm glad Chief Dillard brought that up, because that is exactly what we saw with Northern Monroe, is that the first year you see a big spike in the levies and rates, and then those increases level out. So we generally see a decrease during the second year as the lit catches up with with everything else.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, Councilor McKim, but our high year one rate we're looking at with Cume Fund 39.55, and then the territory it was spiked up into the 80s, if I'm correct. Is that correct?
No, that doesn't sound right, but I'll have to look. But yeah, I'd have to look at that. But it definitely did spike the first year.
Yeah, it was
and then went down the
rest.
second year.
Yeah. Okay.
Councilmember Hawk?
Yes, a matter of curiosity, do each of these townships, they would, I suspect, already have a cume rate, a fire cume rate, but they're not all set at the same cume rate that's the high rate that can be set, and which I believe you're counting on your budget. So do you know what that cume rate is in the other townships?
Councilor Hawk, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but I do know that it looks like in Councilor McKim's presentation and in the spreadsheet I have in front of me, those are combined at the current rates in those townships and the general fund rates.
I can answer that.
But Bloomington had 0.0333.
And Van Buren was 0.0295.
Yeah, and there it is in my formula.
There you
so
go.
I had added those all together.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments? Thank you, Mr. McKim, for presenting that visual there. That was very helpful. Any other questions or comments for Chief Dillard? Mr. Deckard?
Thank you very much. I just wanted to briefly make a comment. First of all, thank you, Chief Dillard, for being here and for patiently going through this and talking about fire protection in the county, which is certainly changing. And as many of us believe, and I know you do, that it's changing for the better, and that we're recognizing that we have a county border to border with fire needs and responding to that. And so I really appreciate that. I just want to thank you for the clarity that you always offer in these processes, and even in the clarity that you offer and your firefighters and all the folks that are responding that do in access to stations. I try to say this in every council meeting that I'm given the opportunity. These stations are not only out in our county and in our public, but they're very much available to the community around them and very much in touch. I know we have a lot of trustees that are here with us. Just like those trustees, these firefighters are in touch with the community around them. They know things, I think, sometimes before any other level of government that we have. And, certainly in a pandemic, we really appreciate that. I appreciate the time that you you all have offered even to me. I know we did some ride-arounds back when you could do that. And nowadays, the important thing is for me to stay away from you all and you all stay healthy and me not ride around and ask a lot of questions. So I'm just grateful for that. I do want to offer a public comment on this current PS Lit process that occurred, and just say that, you know, I didn't serve on PS Lit this year, and I appreciate Councilors McKim and Munson and Spoonmore who did, but I want us all to reject a notion, as I know they do, that fire protection is just something that maybe comes together out in parts of the county, and we'll just see what happens. I represent people on both sides of city and town lines, and I know how important what you all do is and how you are the first person to get there many of the times when folks have needs. So I wanted to publicly say that, and I wanted to publicly thank you. I've not been a part of those meetings. I know that there's a meeting on Monday where we're talking about it, and I'm still working on figuring out how I'm going to do my day job that during that precise time of that meeting, and also vote for that. But thank you very much. And I appreciate very much the time that you take with us, and even in as the mergers and discussions were going on, the patience that you and the trustees have had in that process in educating the public about something that could, you know, easily be misunderstood and get controversial because there's misconception, and that takes a lot in addition to keeping everybody safe all the time. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Deckard. I did see that trustee Rita Barrow had her hand raised, and I wanted to check in with her on her comments. Welcome.
I just want to let everybody know, especially the public, that yes, this is going to be an increase, but it's well worth it because of the situation that we were in during the annexation. Had you been annexed, the tax rate would have been a lot higher. You would not have received the same service that you're receiving now. And I think this is the only way that rural areas are going to be able to provide this service to everyone. And I'm not just speaking of Monroe County, I'm speaking any of the rural areas that are in Indiana or other states. So in addition to that, with the debt being paid off this year for the one engine that we purchased, I see this as a plus minus, yeah, I guess you want to say. And yes, there's going to be some controversy over this, I'm sure, with the tax levy. However, had we been annexed, had we not had the opportunity to join the district and all of us work together, not only would the ones that would have been annexed into the city, their tax increase would have occurred, but also the rural areas, because we still would have had to have had firefighters and EMTs responding to rural areas. So I just want everyone to know, I think this is in your best interest. Hopefully, as Dustin has told all of us, this will go down in the coming years, and the first year is going to be the hardest. Having said that, I am for the district. I hope that eventually we will get all the rural areas in this district. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barrow, our Van Buren Township trustee. Councilmember Hawk.
Yes, Rita covered a lot of what I was going to say. I wanted to bring us back to doesn't seem like that long ago when we that represent the rural areas of Monroe County. Those folks did not want to be annexed into the city of Bloomington, not only because it was going to be a much higher tax rate, but also because they didn't want to have to live under the kind of rules and guidelines that you have if you live in an inner city. I mean, people, you know, with their animals, their lifestyle and so forth, they choose to live in a rural area. But we're not nearly as rural as we were years and years ago. And we have more and more population out there and housing units. And so it's imperative that we have proper fire protection out there. As a reminder, and I said this the other day, it's not been that many weeks ago that we had a house burned down completely in Benton Township. And so response time is critical. And when you have a station that's manned just with volunteers, by the time they leave their home to get to the station, to get geared up and get out to the property, that's going to take a lot longer and lives could be lost. So it's important that we do this. I support it. What I want to make sure is that it's well known exactly what the taxes are going to change for the people out in the rural areas. So there's no one's coming back later and saying, well, you didn't tell us. And that's what happened before. So heads up, people, pay attention to what it's going to cost, but also understand that the cost of not doing it is just not thinkable.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments, Councilmember Wiltz? And then I see Ms. Munson's hand next.
First of all, I'm not even going to attempt to be as eloquent about saying thank you as Councilor Deckard was, but I wholeheartedly endorse his comments and really appreciate the thoroughness on your budgeting. It's always been very educational to have you explain your budgeting process and your budgets. My question is super easy, I think. You mentioned you're adding 20 FTEs, and I think I could probably do the math if I had a few minutes, but how many FTEs are there total? Is that listed in here, or that's my only question, is how many FTEs this represents?
Yeah, so there are currently 7 FTEs, so this would bring us to 27. But in our phase in over the next 5 years, we anticipate using any growth that we get to transition those positions. We're hoping for 5 to 8 full-time transitions each year, which means every time we have the opportunity to bump someone into the full-time status, we would reduce the amount of full-time equivalents, which really helps the community in general by providing, better paying jobs, benefits, and quite frankly, there's a lot more stability in that, especially when COVID and stuff comes in. We still have to roll out the doors. And one thing I have really preached to our folks is, we've got to stay healthy, because if 12 of us are sick at one time, the trucks still have to roll out, and that leaves a lot of burden on the remaining firefighters. So the more we are able to progress this through the years, the lower I want to see that number come down. But at the same time, we wanted to be very respectful with the tax rates. And quite frankly, it's a little bit higher than what I was originally comfortable with. But when you look, as Councilor Hawk mentioned, when you look at the options of not doing these things, I want to make sure my family is well protected when I'm out of town or I'm fighting a fire on the other end of town. And this district would give us the opportunity to respond to multiple major emergencies versus one major emergency, which I don't think people realize it occurs more than they might imagine. And that this new organizational structure is going to be a long-term problem solver. And a lot of the problems that we've seen with staffing, it has been the inability for folks to be able to dedicate time to volunteer because they're busy working multiple jobs. And you know, I think as the years go on, we'll transition those FTEs into career positions, and we'll do so in accordance with our growth, so it doesn't cost more as we do it.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay. Any other questions? Ms. Munson, I know you had a.
Yes, it's really more a comment than a question, because I can just add my thanks, of course, to the fire chief and also to the trustees who have worked so hard on this merger. I really do support this, and I want to comment on a very important part of how Indian Creek benefited from its merger with the fire district, and that is emergency medical services. In the rural area, fire department response, providing EMS is so critical because it can take a long time for an ambulance to reach the area. And I just can't tell you enough how important EMS is as part of the fire department. And so that's a reminder to myself to add EMS to the diagram I put together, because people, I don't think, realize that this is a critical benefit for them. Thanks.
Good comment.
Thank you. Okay. Well, Chief Dillard, thank you so much. Thank you to our township representatives who are here tonight speaking and listening, and to all of your staff, Chief Dillard as well, for being here and helping us just kind of understand things a little bit better. This has been very helpful, very insightful, and we look forward to keeping in touch. Is there anything further that you had for us tonight?
Yeah, just one more item. Kind of goes in line with the lit conversation with the certified shares. Obviously, property taxes are paid in arrears. We'll receive that first settlement in June, and then the second in December. So there is a period of time between January 1 and June 30th in which we're going to have a shortfall on cash, because we're essentially living off of the cash that the fire district currently has, and the need has tripled. So Van Buren Township has committed, and Bloomington Township has committed to sending us any additional excess funds they have from their December settlements to help us get through those first months. But we know we're still going to be short. So we originally, when the district was created, they took out a short-term loan. We have looked into different options, and we found that a small line of credit will be most beneficial to us and most efficient. We simply withdraw what we need at the times in which we need it, which means if we underspend throughout the beginning of the year, the need would be less. We get the settlement, we can pay back that line of credit and live off of it. And Lori and I have really crunched the numbers, because this is one of the things that's bothered us most, is this phenomenon in Indiana government entity startups, if you will, is that there's this shortfall in cash up front. You know, with this merger, it's not like we can start July 1. We've got people, you know, working these stations right now that we have to keep in place. So we're short no matter what. We can't delay the beginning. But with our calculations, if we underspend approximately 10% of the budget in 2020, which I think we really can by looking at those perf, Social Security lines, minimizing overtime and those different things, saving on health insurance, we will no longer have that shortfall after 2021. So I'm pretty excited about the options that we found to get us through those issues. And I wanted to make sure the public was aware that the way the taxes are distributed to us it's kind of difficult, but we're going to make it happen. We're going to do it in an efficient manner. And I appreciate everyone's time tonight hearing me out. I've been told by the Board of Trustees that when we have board meetings and I'm not there, they are a lot shorter. So I know I'm winded, but I appreciate your time. And if you have any other questions, feel free to call me or email me anytime.
Well, thank you, sir. And I appreciate you putting a sharp pencil to all of these plans, and we look forward to keeping in touch. Okay. We'll now move on to our next item, which is discussion regarding the 2021 council budget. And Ms. Shell, I believe. There we go.
Well, hello again, Council. The department budgets you've received. I've also got the requests posted out on the website for everyone to look at for the public. And there is a link on the home page. There's a link on the council page. So to get to the budget information. And so the public, can look at the budgets that are being requested for 2021. Also, I wanted to kind of give you kind of like a summary, just a general look from 2020 to 2021, the general fund, according to last year's approved and this year's requested, is going to increase $287,000. That is without a COLA. That's including all the step increases for all the employees. And that is also keeping the full-time health insurance per position at the same rate. So I have lit special purpose is actually, according to my numbers from 2020 to 2021, is going to decrease by 59,485. So public safety lit will see an increase of $174,732. So then election fund will see a big decrease because it's a non-election year, I believe is what it is. So there's a decrease of $847,699 in the election fund budget for 2021. Let's see. Do you have any questions? I just sent you a, it was a COLA. I just sent it just a little bit. I just didn't get it done until just recent. I sent an email to you regarding what the COLA amounts would look like based on the requests from the commissioners. And Hans, if you don't mind, can you pop that up real quick?
Yep, I was just about to. I was just waiting for you to say something.
Okay, thank you.
And let me know if you need me to zoom that in.
Yeah, go ahead and zoom it in a little bit. So,
that's not in. What? There we go.
Oh, much better. Okay, so what I did was I took what the 2021 has requested, which is a flat rate, and then I took what, oh, that's wrong. That's wrong there. Ignore the 1.7 there for the, it's actually, that should be 35 cents. I'll need to fix that one. But I did a 2% just to give you an extra one. And then the commissioners requested a 2.3. Then there's the 3, which is the probation, and then the 3.3, which is the state recommended for the judges, prosecutors, and those. So that kind of gives you an idea of what it's going to cost each department per fund. And then down at the bottom, if you don't mind to scroll all the way to the bottom, Hans.
That or the next page?
Next page, sorry. If we go with the flat requested amount, the salaries is going to cost us $26,651,170, and then there's the increases going across with regards to the bottom line total for salaries for all budgets, all funds.
Got it. Do we have any indication of what the health insurance is shaping up to look like at this point?
Right now, Angie is requesting that we just keep it the same at 10.5.
Okay. And then I know one of the big contracts coming up this year is going to be with our sheriff's deputies. I believe it's a contract year for them, and there's some negotiations currently taking place. Do we have an update on what the status of that is?
Margie will have to answer to that one. I know that we've got a meeting coming up soon, but I don't know where we're at exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, Jeff Cockrell's the lead on that, and he has scheduled a meeting for Monday. Sorry, my dog is drinking water right underneath me, super loud. But I will tell you that I recommended that the recommendation from the council has been to keep the budget flat and not provide increases. So with that, we've shared that with the deputies and recommended that we take a really fiscally conservative approach to the contract. So if you see changes, I can imagine that the requests for changes are going to be minimal when it comes to financial increases, and might lean more towards changes in, just language changes and policy changes in the contract. But we'll see. We'll know more on Monday.
Was there anything else that you had, Jill?
No, I just, is there anything else? Like I said, I'm gonna have to fix that 2020. I was trying to give you, if you went with like the same rate that we did and I put the wrong rate in, we actually had a 35 cents on the hour for the 2020. I'd have to fix that. So, but is there, something else you kind of want to see that will help you guys with your decision with regards to COLA, that I can do on my end other than revenues?
Yeah, that's going to be the big one. And I think that, I want to be able to have a conversation about COLA, but it's going to require, I just feel like we don't have, a full awareness of what revenues are going to look like. And then, what some of these other costs could be for us before we can make a decision on that. But we still have some time, and this information will be coming in.
Yeah.
And as we receive it, we can update our projections and our numbers, and we'll be able to make a much more informed decision in that regard. Are there questions that the council members have regarding any of this information? I see Councilmember Hawk.
Hans, you can take that down now, please.
Yeah, I do this so you can't hear my dog. You might have gone over this when I had to get up with baby girl, but did you look at what our budget for 2020 would be, subtracting out that 27th pay period, so that we can actually see what the growth is from a 26 pay period from,
That,
seems to
no,
me.
I get it. I'll have to go in individually and subtract that information. That'll take me a little bit longer to do, but I
Do
can
we
get
know-
it.
Well, I was just trying to figure out if we knew how much we ended up having to budget for that 27th pay. Because you can't really compare next year's budget to this year's budget, because this year's budget was really blown up because we had to cover a whole extra pay.
It was over $1 million, right?
Well,
Yes.
I mean, it was well over $1 million, and we
Yes.
just covered it out of our cash. But we need to take that out of what our 2020 budget is, remove that from our consideration, since we did that with cash. Then we could actually see how much we're really growing.
Okay. Yeah, I can do
I
that.
mean, does anybody else think that makes sense, or maybe that's just in my
It makes
head?
good sense. I think that would be great for us to have on Friday.
Okay.
Well, my question is just to clarify, to make sure I'm understanding correctly. When we were looking at the COLA rates and allocation on that sheet, we're looking at that based off of last year's with the 27th pay in. Is that right? Do I have it right?
The comparison?
Yes.
Yeah, the comparison has the 27th pay in there. I haven't pulled it out yet.
Gotcha. All right. I just wanted to make sure I heard that right. Thank you.
Check that out.
Okay. Any other questions or comments right now for Michelle? We do have a budget kind of preview meeting scheduled for Friday over the lunch hour. Should be about noon to 1:30, I believe, is what we've allotted for that, which has kind of been consistent with previous years, where we can, really kind of dig into some more focused budget related questions before we get into our budget workshops in September, which will be here before we know it. So,
Is there anything else you want to see, besides the pulling out that 27th pay on Friday?
yes.
It's my hope that the auditor will maybe we're going to hear yet this evening what the projected miscellaneous revenue is going to be. Then we can add that on to what we think our property tax revenue is going to be. Add those two together, and then we'll see how much our requests are over and above what our revenue is going to be. As a reminder, and I know those of you who've done this for years, you already know this, and I don't mean to say maybe, I know Peter's been going to some of these classes, so maybe you're thinking on this as well, but I know that all of these different budgets that are in that frozen levy, say reassessment or the election budget or the health budget, if that grows, that's literally just like taking it straight out of county general. I mean, because it's still sitting inside that frozen levy. And if everybody already understands that, then we probably don't need to go through that, review that at that work session. But if they don't, if they need, an update on how that works, maybe even a 5-10 minute so people understand, well, you can't just say, well, we'll increase this budget over here and not understand that it really affects county general.
It never hurts to have that discussion, that's for sure.
I'll go channel some Larry DeBoer videos before Friday real quick.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Kim. We look forward to Friday, and we look forward to all the work ahead on the budgets, where we are very near getting right into the thick of things with our budget. So thanks for all the work that you've been putting together. And thanks to our departments too for especially those who got us the request very timely and on time. We really appreciate that. That was very helpful so that we can, really start to, dig into these things and start having, start making decisions on what's going to be best. So thanks to everybody. It's an all hands on deck effort, and we look forward to another successful budget season ahead here. So we'll wrap that up. And now we have a report, an update from our auditor's office on revenue. Bree Gregory's here, our county financial director. She'll be giving us a brief summary of the report that she forwarded to council regarding the current status of our county revenues. Welcome, Bree.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. So you should have received the July 2020 revenue report. I apologize for just getting that to you this morning, but it's updated, should have a lot of good information there. I know everyone is very interested in the revenue projections, and we want to get those to you as soon as possible. Unfortunately, there have been some DLGF and gateway issues, so we still do not have the net assessed value, which is needed for projections. We expect that any day now, and as soon as it's received, we're going to provide information. So any day now, we'll have information for you. I'd also like to give you a quick update on the COVID-19 expenses and reimbursements. The FEMA application is being submitted this week. And so we're going to start, as soon as that's processed, we're going to start submissions for FEMA reimbursements. We received our first CARES reimbursement today for the businesses and taxing units, the first submission on that one. We have the first Monroe County government submission going in for just one of the categories this week. That submission is going to be for $134,000. So that's a good one. And we expect to submit the second Monroe County government submission either this week or next. We're just kind of going through and pulling claims to get the packet ready. To date, we have over $700,000 of expenses that will be forwarded to either FEMA or CARES for reimbursement. So does anybody have any questions or comments?
Any council members, questions or comments? I see Ms. Hawk. Yes.
Yes, Bree, thank you for that wonderful, I mean, I call that awesome report that you're sending to us. I really looked over those numbers today and really appreciate that. And so are you working on that, pulling those numbers together for your projection for your miscellaneous revenue? Because that's not something we have to wait on anything from the state for. You've got your numbers there that you're working on. So we ought to be able to go ahead and put that miscellaneous revenue projection together, because we don't need the assessed value to figure out the miscellaneous revenue. That, I mean, I can't think why we would have to have that for miscellaneous revenue.
Marty, I am working on the miscellaneous revenue now. I've kind of been consumed with GAP, the GASB GAP report, but that has finally, it's going to be submitted, but I'm finally done with all of the last minute requests that our outside partners have required of us. So I am working diligently on that, and I hope to have that complete by the end of the week for you, if not early next week.
Okay, our meeting's on Friday. Right.
That's my goal.
Yes, our meeting is on Friday.
We could have that by Friday, then we would be able to determine a projection, an estimate, and all of this is estimates anyway. We can put together an estimate of what our property tax levy is going to be and throw in that estimate of miscellaneous revenue, and we'll have the number that, you know, we're working toward. Of course, we don't know for sure exactly what that income tax revenue is going to be. They've given us an estimate, which you had, remember Cheryl, you had that when you were working on for the public safety lid, but they'll give us an update on that. But this is an exciting time to be in county government. Aren't we having fun?
So much.
If you're not having fun, then you're missing out.
Well, yes, Marty, I will work on getting that to you. My day tomorrow is going to be working on that almost the entire day. So I look forward to getting that to all of you.
Well, great. Do you know if the auditor's office, and this might not even be anything part that you do, have you turned in that net assessed value into the state to try to get that certified?
And that's where the issue, it hasn't been returned yet to us. So I know that that's Susie Johnson is wonderful. She's the property side manager. She has been working trying to get that cleared up, and we expect to have it any day. So very soon.
Okay, that's great. That's great. I know when you see the status map, it shows that we don't have that done as yet. So that's a biggie for everybody, not just our taxing unit, but all the taxing units are waiting on that. So good job. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions? Did I see Mr. Iverson have his hand? Yes, sir.
Bree, thank you for being here tonight, and thank you for getting that report in. I just want to take some time to publicly recognize the work you're doing on this. You know, as you were just talking with Council Member Hawk, you know, you're very busy, but these charts and graphs that you're giving us make our job just so much easier. It just really clarifies things, and even just to look at the drops in a lot of these revenues starting in June. Really helps put things into perspective. So I just wanted to publicly recognize you for your work and your office on your work on this. It's very, very helpful.
Thank you very much.
Michelle, yes.
I just want to say that Bree has really stepped up. I can't thank her enough for stepping up and taking over in this job, you know, and she's hit it, you know, at a dead run. I mean, she has been busy from day one, you know, working on the Gatsby Gap, you know, stuff, as well as trying to learn what her role is with regards to the budgets. And she's doing a fantastic job. And I just wanted to, you know, let you guys know that she is doing really well.
Great.
Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for Ms. Gregory? All right. Well, thank you, Ms. Gregory, for the report, and we look forward to all the work ahead.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so now we'll move on to approval of minutes. We have our July 14, 2020 regular session minutes and our July 28, 2020 work session minutes that are up for approval tonight.
Yes, they are. Council, I move to approve the summary minutes for the July 14, 2020 regular session and the July 28, 2020 work session as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on the minutes. Any questions or comments on minutes? Any public comment on the minutes? All right, we'll take a roll call vote.
On the motion to approve the July 14th, 2020 regular session and July 28th, 2020 work session summary minutes as presented. Councillor Hawk?
Yes.
Councillor Spoonmore?
Yes.
Councillor Iverson?
Yes.
Councillor Wills?
A wholehearted yes.
Councillor Munson?
Yes.
Councillor Deckard?
And yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
All right, minutes are passed. We'll move on now to item 12, our council comments. Have any members who would like to make final comments before we adjourn tonight? I see Ms. Munson. Yes.
I've made so many comments tonight. I want to do this very quickly. I learned that Councillor McKim and Councillor Deckard have day job challenges for Monday's meeting regarding public safety lit resolution. And that means that our starting time at 5:30 really is not opportune for two members of the council. I wonder if we all would not benefit, and the public would not benefit, from having a presentation by the applicant fire departments for public safety lit funding to make a presentation to the public. This has not been done before, and I think the public would appreciate this. So
Well,
I throw that out to you all.
It sounds like there's only one council member who may have a conflict on Monday, Mr. Deckard. I think Mr. McKim, my understanding is he's able to make it there without.
Oh, okay.
They are, okay. So that's what, so they are going to be there. They would have to all be, if they use the new legislation, if you don't show up, it's counted as a no.
Right.
And
so
that's
we all have to be there.
Right. So
yes, and so I would like to be able to be there around 6-ish, and I know the meeting starts at 5:30, but this is too important a thing, and I do have an obligation to the students that I teach and I'm in class with until that time, and so I'll do my best to get there when I can get there, and we'll have to try to figure that out, or I'll have to try to figure that out. I do understand the importance of this.
So we could have a public comment on a controversial issue for 30 minutes. trying to figure something out.
Is there any way at this point that we could change the start time, Ms. Wright?
You could call your meeting. It's scheduled and it's been advertised for 5:30. So you could start it. You can recess for 15 minutes during the meeting and say you're going to come back at 6 o'clock. I certainly think the idea that Councilmember Munson has about a presentation is wise. If it's okay, I'd like to give you a little bit of background about sort of what I did to prepare for this meeting on Monday. Yeah. Okay. I have drafted a resolution indicating that, and if you pass it, it will indicate the county council members' support for providing a distribution of funds to those township fire departments and entities that do not otherwise receive a distribution of public safety lit dollars. Within the resolution, I made clear that by giving $353,700 to those township fire departments, there would still be plenty of public safety lit money left over for the other entities. In the resolution, I made clear that if that $353,700 was provided, the city of Bloomington would still get $2.6 million and change. Monroe County would get $2.3 million and change. Ellettsville would receive $147,000 and town of Steinsville would receive $897. That's based on population and the certified shares. So I think it would be good for the public, members of the public to realize, and maybe even those members of the local income tax council to realize that by providing some public safety lit funding to entities that are, as you heard tonight, township fires are really, township fire departments are, often desperate for cash and for
additional funds, that by providing, less than $400,000, it's not gonna break anybody. So I think having the township fires departments come in and talk about, their needs and giving a presentation would be a nice way to start the meeting. And I would like to say that the notice that I posted for the meeting, which I talked with the council for the town of Ellisville and council for the city of Bloomington before I prepared the notice and sent it out, it does extend an invitation to the other members of the local income tax council. So the notice said that the members of the Monroe County Council, as members of the local income tax council, would be convening a meeting on Monday, August 31st, to propose and vote upon an allocation of the public safety local income tax dollars to those fire departments. And that the members of Steinsville Town Council, the Ellettsville Town Council, and the City of Bloomington Common Council, who are also members of that local income tax council, are invited to attend. We certainly want them to attend. We hope that they will attend. This is such an important topic. And because the way the state law is written, notice had to actually be published in the newspaper and done 10 days before the meeting. So we were on a kind of tight deadline because this has to be done by September 1st. So as a courtesy to those other members of the local income tax council, I provided a notice that would allow for all of those members of the income tax council to get together on the 31st and vote on this really important issue. So it's my hope that they will accept the invitation that's been offered to them, that they will show up at 5:30. As Marty alluded to, and Marty is well familiar with this area because she was up at the General Assembly lobbying for this, that there's a change in the way the local income tax council votes this year. And all of the members of the income tax council now have a seat on the council. So rather than voting as a block for the council or block as the city council or block as the common council or block of the town council of Ellettsville, all of you will be voting as individual members of the income tax council. So that works then is that let's imagine all of the county councils supported providing money to the township fire departments. And if you were able to secure a couple of votes, just 2 votes from the City of Bloomington Common Council, then that would pass. And you would be able to provide that $353,000 to those township fire departments. If nobody else shows up, or if they show up and do not vote in favor of this, then obviously the proposal will fail. But it's my sincere hope that the way we did this notice and extended this courtesy invitation, that they will certainly take us up on that invitation and show up via Zoom. I have sent the notice to the other attorneys. I also sent the resolution and asked if they had any edits. I'd welcome those edits. I have not received any feedback yet. But happy to answer any questions you might have about that.
Thank you, Ms. Rice. That was very helpful. And I echo that sentiment that we hope that all members of the tax council will be able to join us for this meeting. And I want to thank you and council staff for really working at the 11th hour to get all of this put together so that we could have this meeting, because I know there are so many constituents that are out there in the rural areas who are really hoping that the representatives are going to be there to advocate for them. And this is really kind of the last opportunity that we have here. And we've got to go for it. We owe it to our constituents to do this. And I'm hoping, and I appreciate Ms. Munson's suggestion here that they kind of got this conversation. I misunderstood at the beginning, but now I understand completely. And I think that would be, a very good idea to invite those rural departments to come and give us their feedback and their public comment, and anybody else who's interested in this matter as well too. I want us to be able to hear it. So thanks for that suggestion. I think it's a good one. Any other questions or comments, Ms. Hawk?
It might be very interesting. Am I still muted?
No, you're good.
Yeah. Okay. It might be interesting if they would do this like in a video in their station to show the public, okay, this is what's needed, and show where it's going to go. I mean, not the public, they're not all aware of what some of these facilities look like and what it's going to be used for. So that might be an interesting thing that they could do in advance. And that way we would have it to be able to play it back. They could play it on cats or whatever for people to have a better understanding of how the money's going to be used. And in addition to which, it could already be prepared and they could do it at a separate time in case they couldn't make it for our meeting. Just as a suggestion.
That's a good suggestion. Ms. Munson?
Yeah, I like that. I like that idea, Ms. Hawk, and I think we should set some guidelines for as to how long such a video should be. And I would like Michelle to prepare to send invitations to the Monroe Fire Protection District, the Ellettsville Fire Department, which submitted a proposal on behalf of Richland Township, the Bean Blossom Township Steinsville Volunteer Fire Department, and the Benton Township Volunteer Fire Department. So those are the four entities that submitted applications this year and that were supported by the county council's decision.
And even just a 5-minute video would be, really, I think, just perfect.
Okay, so I just want to make sure. So you want me to contact them and ask them to provide a 5-minute video. Do you also want them to be available to? Okay.
And they can kind of choose which one works best for them. But if they just want to do the presentation at the meeting, that's fine. I think if they prefer to do that, if they don't have the ability to do
a video or Zoom.
We would like to have, regardless of which presentation method they use, I think we would like to have all of them there just to be available.
Okay.
Questions.
One thing I would just suggest is, given that I know all the things that they're going through and all everything they're dealing with, if a video is cumbersome for them and if someone can come and say something, I always think that's good. I think that both the departments and ourselves have to be in a constant state of talking about the fire protection that goes on in this county out in the places that these stations serve and that these districts and these entities take care of. And I think Cheryl's point earlier gets lost on a lot of folks that might not find themselves in Kirksville, but when they do, they realize for the residents of Kirksville how important this is. That's not just a 2-second jump over somewhere. That's a distance. But again, I wouldn't recommend a burden. I do appreciate the discussion on getting everybody there for the vote, and certainly I wish there weren't that burden, and I will rush there as quick as I can so that I can make a very important vote for the protection of every resident of this county with fire protection and emergency services.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments from council? Yes, Ms. Munson.
So one more, please. This is a comment to our colleagues on the City Council and the Ellettsville Town Council and the Steinsville Town Council. The members of the Monroe County Council represent portions of the city of Bloomington, as well as the unincorporated areas, each one of the 7 of us. And so we don't just focus on the rural areas, we focus on the city of Bloomington too. And for Ms. Hawk, certainly her district overlaps Ellettsville. I think she's the only one who may overlap with the town of Ellettsville and the town of Steinsville. But we do have a broad reach of interests and commitments to our constituents who live in Monroe County. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, this has been a very productive meeting tonight, I think. Thank you all for joining us, and look forward to our next meeting on Friday, and we'll start that at 5:30. And until then, we are adjourned. Take care. Have a good evening.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.